Yes, this is Daniel Sinclair, and we're in the creative studios of Green Room 97, located at 2997 East Fifth Avenue in Columbus, Ohio. This show is being produced by the co-owner of Green Room, Larry Hawkins Jr., and this is our 7th episode, Voices of Inspiration. To those who are following us, if you'll be so kind, if you think we're going in the right direction, hit that like button for us. And if you plan to stay with us throughout the duration, subscribe for us and be sure to share our episodes with your friends and relatives. Today we have a very, very special guest and has a very emotional story to share with us. And we want to welcome Charlene Anderson. Charlene, welcome to Voices of Inspiration.
Thank you very much.
So you were living in Dayton, Ohio,
Yes.
mother of 3 children, ages 9, 4, and 2, and you were being taunted by these horrendous dreams. And tell us about those dreams and how you handled them.
Well, at that time, which was in 1987, it was a time where I was a single parent at that time. And I was supporting 3 children, and I was doing fairly well, as best I could as a single mother.
Mm-hmm.
I worked full time. I went to school. I was furthering my education, and I was taking care of my children. I was going through a period where I was having nightmares, dreams, and I didn't understand the dreams. And so I decided to seek help to try to figure out what was going on. And so I spoke with the doctor about it. I spoke with my mom. I spoke with my minister. But I just wanted to touch on 2, and that is the doctor. When I went to the doctor about it, it was important that I find out if I had a terminal illness. There must have been something going on, but I just didn't know. So going to the doctor was important to find out if it had any correlation with the dreams, to let me know that something was going to happen, something I was going to die, or what. But that turned out to be fine. I was fine as a result. I talked with my mother about it, tried to get some clarity of maybe something she could say or tell me that could help me. But like a mother, she was very comforting, loving, caring. We prayed, we talked, but there was still no, and I just felt like someone like coming to Joseph as in the Bible, to try to seek some help to explain these dreams. But
What was happening in the dream?
the dreams, I was running. I was always running. It was dark. I was running in the dream. There was a shooting. I could hear gunshots. I didn't know where they were coming from, but I was always running in a dream. And then I would wake up in a cold sweat and breathing very hard, my heart pounding very fast, and it was just so real to me.
There were always gunshots?
Yes.
There are always gunshots in these dreams.
Always gunshots. And it just got to the point where it terrified me so much that I didn't even want to go to sleep.
No, I can imagine.
So it just went on and on and on for at least several weeks.
Okay. So also you shared with me at that time that you were dating a young man that was a teacher and was moonlighting as a security officer and carried a gun, and also had some conflict with one of your baby's fathers or something.
Yes, he did. He did work as a physical education teacher, and also side jobs as security and detective and working in that nature. And he carried a gun. At the time, he was having some conflicts with my child's father. And so as a result, this is what my belief, as a result, he brought the gun. When he would come to visit me, he brought the gun with him, which that was unbeknownst to me. I didn't know he was bringing the gun to my house. One day he did tell me that he had misplaced his gun and if I had seen it. And I said, no, I have not. I said, but you better find it because I have children in the home and you better find it. And so I just didn't think a whole lot about it because I didn't realize that he was actually bringing it on a regular basis. When he was coming to visit me, I had no knowledge of that. And since he worked so many jobs at so many different locations, it was just assumed that if he lost it, it had to be somewhere else. It couldn't possibly be at my home.
Okay. So tell me about the incident.
Well, one day, the children, prior to the incident, my nephew Albert and my son Damien had found, actually my son Damien was looking for something to draw with, and he was looking for some markers or crayons or something to play with.
Damien was a 10-year or the 9-year-old.
Yes.
Okay.
And Albert was 11.
And Albert was 11. Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
And Damien is my son, and he was looking in my room, in my nightstand for some markers, and he noticed in the back of the nightstand was a gun. And Damien told Albert about it. Albert and they both was observing the gun, looking at the gun, just like children do.
Yeah.
They're curious.
Right.
They were seeing how heavy it was, what it looked like, and so on and so forth. But they put the gun back. At some point, Candace must have heard them or saw them, and she got a hold of the gun herself.
Kansas is your 4-year-old.
Candace.
Yes. Is your 4-year-old.
Yes, she's
Okay.
the 4-year-old.
Right.
And at some point, she got a hold of the gun. They were, and then fast forward, they were playing in Damien's room. Mm-hmm. They were all in the room. They had, Damien and Albert had been in a fight with one another. And so they were supposed to stay in the room as discipline to, talk it out, to work it out. But I did allow them to play in the room. Yeah. Damien, all of them were playing, and they were playing hide and seek. Mm-hmm. And all of a sudden I heard a pop, mm-hmm. and it's like the world stopped. And I said, what was that? And no one said anything. It was complete silence. A few minutes before that, Akwasi, my youngest son, that's 2, he was in the bathroom. I went in the bathroom. I clicked the light on. He was behind the door. And I said, well, you must be hiding from Candace. And I said, well, go on out. And he went out and went back to the room where they all were. And then again, fast forward, that's when I heard the pop.
That's when you heard the pop. Okay.
And the gun had went off. Candace had been playing with the gun at the time when the gun went off. Mm-hmm. And it shot him.
And shot your 2-year-old.
It shot him, yes. It shot the 2-year-old in the head.
So how did you go to the room you discovered that he was shot, or what happened?
After
you heard
the shot, no one moved, no one said a word. Mm. And I said it very loudly. What was that? I decided to go to the room, and when I went to the room, to my shock and disbelief, my son Akwasi, 2 years old, was laying on the floor. And I
Take your time.
Had a very difficult time with that because it was just a complete shock to me. And at that moment, I had no idea that gun that I had talked about several weeks ago, that was never mentioned again, never talked about again. It was discovered.
It was in your home.
It was in my home.
Yes. So upon seeing your son laying on the floor, you got on the telephone and called, 911. They didn't have such a thing, but you called the operator at that time.
Yes.
And the operator, being an operator, started questioning you who, how, what, when, and where. And You said you got him. I know that had to be extremely emotional at that time. You did not really know what to do. So, what did you do?
At that time, Albert picked Akwasi up off the floor,
Okay.
and I had ran to my room. We didn't have cell phones, of course.
Right.
And I ran to my room to call the operator to call for emergency assistance. And so I was talking to them on the phone. I was very emotional. I was just erratic. It was just a difficult situation to talk on the phone and knowing that your son is right there and he needs immediate help. You know, it was extremely urgent. It was extremely difficult. And so I told Albert to give him to me. And so I had him in my arms and I'm trying to talk on the phone. And so I decided at that moment to just throw the phone down and run to get him help, to get to the hospital as soon as possible.
That's an emotional reaction. Was he bleeding from his chest or his
He was bleeding from
or
the head.
From the head.
Yes. And I was holding him like this and I could no longer talk. I could no longer talk on the phone. Those seconds and minutes seems like eternity to me, and I needed to get him to the hospital.
So what did you do?
I ran.
You were going to run
I
to the
threw the
hospital?
phone down. Albert may have picked it up and continued to talk, but I threw the phone down. I ran out the door with my child in my arms. His body was limp, and I ran next door. I figured my neighbors would be there and I could get some help from them. They could take me right to the hospital. They could drive me. I knew I couldn't drive. I ran next door to the neighbor. I banged on the door. I kicked the door. I screamed. I yelled. I hollered for someone to come to help me and my child. No one ever came to the door. So I decided at that moment to, since I lived at a location where there was a slight hill right on my street, and I knew cars come over that hill pretty fast all the time. And I was like 3 doors before the stop sign at the end of the street. And they would have to stop, pretty fast. And so I knew at that time to get the help I needed quickly, I could run in the street, in the middle of the street with my child. A car would be coming over any moment and they would have to stop to help me.
Okay.
And that's exactly what happened. I ran in the middle of the street. A car came over the hill and saw us right there in the middle of the street.
And he took you to the hospital?
And he stopped and put us in his car and took us to the hospital.
And so what occurred at the hospital?
At the hospital, they took us right in, took my son right in. They said they would do all they could to help him. But unfortunately, he had lost a lot of blood. And the gentleman that helped me, he did do the best he could to get me there as fast as possible. But there was some time in between when the incident, of course, happened. And by the time I got to the hospital, and the doctor came out some moments later, I'm not sure how much time later, but it seemed like a long time. But he came out and told me that Akwasi was in very serious condition and it didn't look very good. And that if he survived, he would be a vegetable. And that's something no mother or father or anyone would want to hear.
No.
And it's just something that I just couldn't believe.
I'm sure you were devastated.
I was just devastated. I could not believe this had happened and it was so unreal. I just couldn't believe it.
Yeah. So, no parent wants to go through a situation of hearing the death of their child. No. My heart really goes out to you.
Thank you.
And how have you quoted with it over the years? How have you dealt with this situation?
It's been extremely difficult to deal with. I basically, for many years, self-destruct. I went into deep depression, anxiety, PTSD. It was just an ongoing thing, a struggle every day to live, to function, to take care of myself, my children, to continue to work, to go to school. It was just unbelievable, the kind of pressure that was put on me, and then dealing with the aftermath of the trauma that had occurred. I didn't really seek immediately help in terms of counseling. I didn't really know about counseling and what was out there. I just was trying to just to survive, just to function on a daily basis. So, but I did the best that I could. I spoke with my minister. I was involved in church. So I did continue to go to church. At some point, I did fall off. And because I was struggling, one thing I'm glad I never did was drugs and things of that nature, drink or anything like that. I just wanted to be strong for my children, and I wanted to be there for them.
Yes. However, your children, how have they dealt with the situation? Of course, Candace is very, very young, being 4 years old. Damon a little older, but
Doesn't have a lot of
she
memory.
doesn't remember it too
She
much.
doesn't have a lot of memory of it, but she does have memory of me talking to them and talking to them about Akwasi and their brother and cousin, and she loved the story of Akwasi going to heaven, a place like heaven, and how beautiful it is. And after I talked to her about that and talked to them about that, Candace was so excited about where her brother was, and he was in heaven, and that she wants to go there to be with him. And that's all she could talk about, is going to heaven and wanting to be with her brother, and how beautiful heaven is. And I said, well, hold on, not so fast. I said, we'll get there one day, but it's not time just yet. But she doesn't have a lot of memory other than that. And Damien, he's doing very well. His favorite line is, I'm phenomenal. I could barely say that, but that's his favorite word. If you asked him how he's doing, he did struggle initially for some years. He struggled, he was angry, he was mad, because he didn't understand. They all didn't understand, and they loved their brother. He loved them. They wanted to be with him. They wanted him back. So Damien struggled for many years with his anger, but he told me he realized it wasn't getting him anywhere. He needed to find a way to get past that. So he played sports. He was very good at sports. He worked. He was a hard worker. So he knew that was starting to affect him in his job and in his daily life. And he didn't want that.
Yes,
so he decided to work through it. He talked with people that he could confide in and trust. His stepfather, his uncle, Albert. He talked with him. He had a close friend or two that he could talk to. So he learned how to get through that anger. Albert, he also was confused and angry about what happened, and he did seek some help many years later. He sought help, counseling, to help him, and he worked it through. And Albert believed in transparency. He believed that, you have to be true to yourself. So he's been working on that. He believed in God. They all believe in God. But he believed that your relationship with God is a personal thing. And so he have a personal relationship with God.
What role do you think your faith took in helping you recover from this situation?
Faith is everything. Faith in God is everything. It has played a tremendous role. It has allowed me to get up every morning, to do the things that I need to do, to be productive, to have a life, to know that God is in my heart, He's in my mind, He's part of me. He's my rock, He's my strength. And my mother had always instilled in me to trust in God, to go to church. It's important to always have God a part of your life. She instilled that in all of her children. And so that stuck with me and never left me. And so it's tremendously important to me.
Very good. Is there a message that you would like to share with our audiences? Something they can cling to?
Yes, I like to say that trust in God, believe in God, believe in yourself. Know that whatever you've gone through in your life, you can overcome. There's many things that will happen to you, but don't allow yourself to get stuck. Pursue those dreams. Believe in yourself. Trust in God. Get in a Bible-based church that will help to teach you the truth of God's word and to love Him, and surround yourself with family that's supportive and caring and loving, and be a support to each other. And know that this is not something that defies you, that makes you who you are. It's your faith in God, it's your trust in God that makes you who you are. And just believing in yourself. And just don't get stuck. Keep going and keep living, because you still have life ahead of you, and you have those that love you and care for you, that wants the best for you.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for visiting with us, Ms. Charlene Anderson.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
And we enjoyed you. And I think you're going to be an inspiration to an awful lot of people.
I hope so.
And thank you for visiting with us today on this episode of Voices of Inspiration. And we will be seeing you very soon. And remember, the good word is that God loves us all. Thank you.